The Atlas Defense Technologies boardroom fell into stunned silence. Rachel Donovan, the icy, unflinching CEO, stood before her executives and announced, "Meet my husband, Logan Hayes." Gasps rippled through the room. The man beside her wasn't another corporate elite or decorated officer, but a quiet janitor who had been cleaning their offices for months. The same man everyone ignored. No one knew that this janitor had once commanded America's most classified Special Forces unit. Rachel had no idea that her convenient husband, chosen for control and simplicity, was a man whose hands had ended wars, dismantled terrorist cells, and assassinated dictators under the veil of secrecy. But that past was about to resurface. 6 weeks earlier, Rachel strode to the gleaming lobby of Atlas's Austin headquarters. Sharp navy dress, crisp white blazer, every step radiating command. Her father's sudden yacht accident had left her as heir and CO, but the board had revealed a clause that infuriated her. Marry within 30 days or lose control of Atlas. 30 days. It was absurd. Her father had built a company from nothing, trained her for leadership, and yet from beyond the grave, he had shackled her future to marriage. In her minimalist office, Rachel reviewed missile guidance system blueprints while her assistant, Vanessa, listed potential husband candidates. The VP of Marketing, too ambitious. The CFO, too connected to the board. She needed someone with no stake in Atlas. Someone discreet. Someone controllable. After rejecting everyone, Rachel escaped to a quiet bar far from the corporate district. Several drinks in, her carefully polished armor cracked. The exhaustion, grief, and impossible deadline pressed down until she felt utterly human again. That's when she met him. He sat alone at the counter, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a simple gray shirt. His calm eyes held a depth she couldn't read. He listened as she vaguely described her problem, responding with quiet wisdom. "Sometimes the most impossible problems," he said, "have the simplest solutions." When an aggressive drunk tried to touch her, Logan moved with terrifying precision. No wasted motion, just a wrist lock and a murmured warning that sent a man retreating. Rachel's head spun, not just from alcohol, but from this stranger's composure and control. They talked for hours. By the time she impulsively invited him back to her penthouse, she wasn't thinking about business. Morning brought shock. Logan Hayes, the man in her bed, was one of Atlas's janitors. Where another CEO might feel humiliation, Rachel saw opportunity. A man with no connections, no ambitions, no leverage. Perfect. Over coffee, she offered him a deal, a 1-year marriage of convenience. Generous payment, separate lives, and complete discretion. Logan agreed with one condition. No background checks. "I prefer to keep my past where it belongs." Assuming he had minor legal trouble, Rachel agreed. 3 days later, they married quietly at the courthouse. No guests, no romance, just signatures and cold efficiency. Neither noticed a man photographing them from across the street, sending an encrypted message moments later. Target has changed patterns. New variable introduced. When Rachel introduced Logan as her husband at the next board meeting, the reaction was immediate. Whispers filled the room. Marcus Blackwood, her father's old friend and board chairman, shook Logan's hand, eyes sharp with suspicion. "Quite the whirlwind romance," Blackwood said. "When you know, you know," Rachel replied smoothly, resting a possessive hand on Logan's arm. The inheritance clause was satisfied, but Rachel noticed the way Blackwood watched Logan, like a man identifying a threat. Logan moved into her penthouse, but respected her boundaries. Separate rooms, minimal interaction. He refused to quit his janitor job. "I prefer to earn my keep," he said, though Rachel didn't realize his real motive. Staying inside Atlas gave him access to investigate what her father had died uncovering. They settled into quiet coexistence. Rachel worked endless hours, and Logan's presence became a subtle rhythm in her life. Silent, efficient, almost invisible. Yet he noticed everything. When she skipped meals, food appeared in her fridge. When she couldn't sleep, chamomile tea waited on her desk. The control freak CEO found herself disconcerted by his quiet intuition. One night, she caught him doing push-ups with perfect military precision. The grace in his movements didn't fit his supposed background. "Helps me stay focused," he said simply. She let it go, but unease lingered. Their fragile arrangement shattered during a dinner with potential military clients. Rachel, nervous and out of her element, faltered mid-presentation. Logan stepped in smoothly, addressing the generals with precise knowledge of defense protocols. His effortless confidence salvaged the deal and embarrassed Rachel. "You overstepped," she snapped afterward. "You were drowning," he said calmly. "I just kept you afloat. I don't need rescuing. Everyone does sometimes." Something flickered in his eyes before he turned away. For the first time, Rachel wondered if she'd underestimated him. Meanwhile, Logan's secret investigation deepened. Atlas's network had holes, encrypted data leaks, suspicious offshore payments, and shipments that didn't match official manifests. He'd seen these patterns before in sabotage operations. He suspected her father's death was an accident. Months later, Rachel secured a major defense contract. The celebration drew military officials and press. Logan watched from the edges, scanning the crowd. Something felt wrong. Security patterns didn't add up. Then he saw it. A guard too close to Rachel, hand hidden inside his jacket. In a blur, Logan moved. The gun fired. He deflected it. The bullet grazed his arm instead of Rachel's chest. Within seconds, the attacker was disarmed and unconscious. Rachel stared in disbelief as her quiet janitor husband handled the crisis with chilling precision. By the time security swarmed in, Logan was gone. Hours later, she found him at home, calmly stitching his own wound. "Who are you?" she demanded. He looked up, steady, someone with experience and protection. "You've been lying to me." "Not lying," he said softly, "just not sharing everything." Before she could press further, an alert came in. Atlas servers were under cyber attack. She had no choice but to take him back to headquarters. There, Logan's mask dropped completely. His hands flew over the keyboard with expert skill, tracing digital footprints, rerouting access nodes, identifying internal sabotage. Rachel watched, stunned. This wasn't Janitor. When they traced the breach back to Marcus Blackwood, Rachel's world tilted. Logan advised caution. "Blackwood's not working alone. I've seen these patterns before." She demanded the truth. He hesitated. "I worked in military intelligence once. That's all I can say." They began working together, her authority, his covert skills, quietly piecing together conspiracy her father had died trying to expose. They found encrypted communications proving someone inside Atlas had been selling classified technology to foreign buyers, and Rachel began to realize her father's death had been a warning. Late one night, she noticed a phrase in the recovered files. "Phoenix containment active. Commander unknown." Logan's expression changed, controlled, but tense. Before she could question him, the alarm blared. Armed intruders infiltrated the building with military precision. "Stay behind me," Logan ordered, voice suddenly sharp and commanding. Gone was the quiet janitor. In his place stood a soldier, a commander. He moved like a machine, disarming one attacker in seconds, pulling Rachel behind cover, calculating angles by sound. She watched in a mix of awe and fear as he neutralized trained assassins like it was second nature. They escaped to a secure safe house Logan had secretly prepared. The place was stocked with weapons, encrypted comms, and supplies. "Who are you, really?" Rachel asked again. He finally answered, "I was special operations. I was sent to Atlas after your father suspected internal sabotage." He reached out through military channels. Her eyes hardened. "And marrying me, was that part of your mission?" "No," he said after a pause. "That part wasn't planned." Before she could respond, his encrypted line buzzed with a coded message. Sable Phoenix compromised. Targets, Atlas leadership. Rachel didn't understand, but the dread on Logan's face told her it was bad. Moments later, surveillance feeds from her penthouse showed Blackwood's men planting bugs and searching her home. "They've been watching me for months," Rachel whispered. Logan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "They watched you, but they never saw you." Something in his tone, protective, almost reverent, broke through her composure. That night, anger and fear turned into something else. Connection. In the dim, safe house light, they stopped pretending their marriage was just business. Morning came gray and silent. Logan sat at the table, disassembling a weapon with methodical calm. Rachel watched from across the room, coffee trembling in her hands. "Last night," she began softly. He didn't look up. Shouldn't have happened. But it did. He finally met her eyes, the mask of the soldier gone. "You deserve someone whose life isn't built on lies and blood." "Then stop hiding," she said. He exhaled slowly. "My unit, Task Force Sable Phoenix, was erased from the records 5 years ago. We were ghosts. When your father discovered Atlas Tech was being sold to insurgents, he contacted us. 2 days later, he was dead. I was the only one who survived the cleanup." Rachel's blood ran cold. "So my father was murdered because he tried to stop them?" "Yes, and now they're coming for you." Before she could respond, Logan's phone buzzed with an encrypted alert. A hit had been ordered on her. They had to move. Logan drove through back roads, avoiding surveillance, his eyes scanning mirrors every few seconds. Rachel sat beside him, clutching the drive containing evidence against Blackwood. "I can expose him," she said. "I'll call the Attorney General, the press." "He owns them," Logan interrupted. "You go public now. You'll be painted as unstable. We need proof strong enough to bury him." Rachel looked at him. "Then we take it from the inside." He gave a faint smile. "You're starting to sound like me." They infiltrated Atlas headquarters that night. Security systems had been modified. Rachel's access revoked, replaced with a trap. As alarms blared, Logan guided her through service corridors only he would know, leading to their father's hidden vault beneath the sublevel. Inside lay the truth. Data logs, communications, video files linking Blackwood to defense contractors and foreign buyers. The conspiracy wasn't about money. It was about control, weaponizing Atlas technology to destabilize governments. Rachel's breath caught as she found her father's final message recorded days before his death. "If you're seeing this, Rachel, they'll come for you too. Trust no one on the board, except the one who watches from the shadows." She turned to Logan. "He meant you." Before he could answer, gunfire erupted above. Blackwood's men had found them. Logan switched into soldier mode, directing her to the vault's reinforced corner. Bullets tore through glass and steel. He moved with lethal precision, using minimal ammunition, conserving every breath. Rachel covered him by triggering Atlas's emergency lockdown protocol. When the smoke cleared, a voice echoed through the comm system. "Drop your weapon, Commander Hayes." Blackwood appeared on screen, flanked by armed men. "You should have stayed dead." Rachel stepped forward. "You killed my father." Blackwood smiled. He was weak, too sentimental to do what needed to be done. "You, though, you could have been useful, until you brought him back into the game." Logan's jaw tightened. Game's over. But Blackwood wasn't bluffing. He detonated charges throughout the facility. Explosions rocked the building as fire alarms screamed. Logan grabbed Rachel's hand. "We need to move now." They fought their way through collapsing corridors, smoke thick and blinding. In the chaos, Rachel fell, striking her head. Logan lifted her effortlessly, carrying her through fire and debris to the sublevel exit. Outside, emergency crews swarmed the burning complex. He placed her in the back of an ambulance, then vanished before she woke. When Rachel came to, Atlas Tower was gone, reduced to twisted steel. Logan's name wasn't on any casualty report. For weeks, she searched. Nothing. The board declared Blackwood dead. Rachel reinstated as CEO, and the scandal buried under national security classification. But Rachel couldn't rest. Logan's absence hollowed her victories. Every morning she brewed 2 cups of coffee. Every night she looked at the door, waiting. 3 months later, a file appeared on her desk. No sender, no note. Inside were sealed military documents declassifying Sable Phoenix and proving Blackwood's crimes. Alongside them, a simple photograph, Logan standing on a pier, holding a young girl, his daughter. Rachel stared at it for a long time before whispering, "You said you had no one." Scrawled on the back, in his handwriting, "Everyone needs rescuing sometimes." Weeks later, She traveled to a coastal town listed in the metadata of the photo. She found a quiet mechanic shop run by a man who looked familiar even beneath a beard and baseball cap. "Logan Hayes?" she asked softly. He looked up. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have left." His daughter ran out from the back, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Rachel froze, realizing the truth. He hadn't just vanished. He'd gone to protect his child. "I couldn't drag you into this life," he said quietly. "I already lost too much." Rachel stepped closer. "You didn't lose me. You just ran before I could choose you." He looked away. "You don't belong here." "Maybe I don't," she said, voice trembling. "But I'd rather be here with you than at the top of the world without you." For a moment, silence filled the small shop, the kind that carried the weight of everything unspoken. Then Logan smiled faintly, the soldier's edge softening. "You always did get what you wanted, CEO." Rachel reached up, touching the scar on his arm. "Not this time. This time I'm asking." He hesitated, then finally pulled her into his arms. The world outside remained dangerous, uncertain, but for that moment, they were home. Months later, Atlas Defense was reborn, transparent, ethical, stronger. Rachel led it with quiet determination. Logan occasionally seen on the premises, officially as head of security. Rumors swirled among the staff. Some said he'd been Special Forces. Others said he'd just been a janitor lucky enough to marry the CEO. Only Rachel knew the truth. He was both. A man who cleaned up more than floors. He cleaned the corruption that nearly destroyed them all. And when people whispered about their unlikely marriage, she only smiled. Sometimes, she'd say, the simplest mistake changes everything.